Jay-Z and Diddy and a teenager, 13-year-old teenager.
Right.
What did you feel about just that whole thing, man?
As much as people feel like I haven't had issues with Puffy. I don't like him like that. Like, I don't like things that he would do, but Jay definitely not that.
The hip-hop industry has been shaken many times before, but what is unfolding right now feels different. This is not just another celebrity feud, not just another internet rumor, and not just another calculated publicity stunt. This is something darker, something more dangerous, and something that...
Look, when Jay signed his contract, the big one was with Beyonce. When he signed that contract, the marriage contract, he got trophies. Now those fucking trophies, trophies came rolling in, buddy. He started getting Grammys left and right, man. I mean, look, if you look at his career,
This guy. You're gonna let him say that?
Jay was getting Grammys.
he had one.
Exactly.
He had one.
And he didn't show up.
No, he has like 20 now.
Hold on.
He had like 18 since he been down. Look, he had one, bro. Hard Knock Life.
Hold on.
You're not wrong.
He was
At
one.
the same time.
After that, he got them shits. He's like drinking his pictures with him. Like, fucking things the cup.
Wait a minute. So you're saying the success is derived from the marriage?
I've absolutely been treated differently.
The accolades.
Because he's no
marriage.
longer viewed as what, like a street or gangster rapper. Now he's viewed as a businessman, entrepreneur, family man.
And the biggest ones because of the position Beyonce's.
Oh, wow.
Right? You were connected to the biggest.
Jay got it for the music. Jay got it for the music.
You didn't see.
He deserved those.
I'm sitting there, it's like this, like Black excellence. They're sitting there like, yeah. It's the billionaire brunch. You're like,
I hate you, man.
unaware of anything going on here. This is the one time I'm gonna be with you niggas this year. Yeah. Come on, bro.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
He just looking at his watch during the whole Rock Nation break. Like, is it 3:30
Yeah, it's almost time to get out. What the fuck is that? Yo, I feel like I'm normal again. Get me out of here.
Oh wow! So that's the deal he signed, huh?
Yeah, that's the deal. Like, the other ones didn't count as much as that one did.
Oh, yeah, before I forget this, we talked about Jay. Proximity to Diddy. You don't think he knew anything? He's seemingly around Diddy a
I
lot.
don't know. That was a real suburb question.
Yeah, I know, right?
Proximity.
And the proximity.
Proximity. That's the SAT hit parade word. I had to learn that.
Do you think he fucking knew all of the shit that was going on? Yeah, that was like a...
I don't want to incriminate myself.
I know, but the way he said it,
Like I said,
no matter how you answer that shit, you snitching.
That was a nice kind of
You asked the question like a fan.
hey, I grew up with white people. There's one thing I know is how to get a black guy in trouble.
But here's a great question. Yo, just give him the Happy Meal before you ask him to snitch, bro.
He said, damn, they wasn't even drinking.
Speaking of, how the hell you pronounce Lechem?
Lechemin-de-Roi.
Okay.
It's the King's Path.
King's Path. Chemin de Roi.
Because I know Branson. That's the one I pronounce.
Branson. That's the Branson lifestyle. You're going to be outside.
Biff, you're not worried that if you throw little and you don't throw out allegations, but like you kind of poke fun at them.
You just ask questions.
You're not worried that it comes back your way? Like people dig up your past and try to pull stuff up?
I don't got that shit in my past. I'm not.
Everybody got a little bit.
Look,
like, not that it's real enough.
I took a pill. But it was for me to perform better. For her to remember, buddy. I didn't fucking give her a drink so she forget what the fuck happened. What the fuck is going on here, bro? Yes, I took the drugs. I gave me the fucking drug to perform. So she can remember and possibly love me for that.
Did it work?
What the fuck? Yo, bro, look, I'm doing pretty good. Like,
If true, could alter the legacy of some of the most powerful figures in music forever. For weeks now, the talk around Diddy has grown louder, the accusations stacking higher, the whispers turning into open conversations. His name, once synonymous with success, power, and influence, is now linked to some of the most disturbing allegations the industry has seen in years. And yet, no matter how loud those whispers got, there was one name that had managed to stay just far enough away from the direct fire: Jay-Z. That changed the moment 50 Cent decided to speak. When 50 Cent speaks, he doesn't speak lightly. His words are often calculated, loaded with intent, and designed to hit where it hurts most. His career has been built on fearlessness, on a willingness to say what others won't, and on a proven track record of exposing uncomfortable truths long before they become mainstream knowledge. He's made enemies because of it. He's been targeted because of it. But he's also been right, over and over again. That's why this moment is so explosive. 50 Cent has now broken his silence. And in doing so, he's pulled Jay-Z's name into the center of Diddy's growing legal storm. For years,
Them laying out their entire case and what they have, it's too premature. The court has to work out other issues before we can submit the letter. And the government argues that Combs isn't playing fair. Quote, the defendant was arrested in September 2024, and the trial date was set at the defendant's insistence for May 5th, 2025, a span of fewer than 8 months. The defendant is trying to have his cake and eat it too here by insisting on a speedy trial, but also insisting on deadlines in cases with much longer timelines. And by the way, speaking of the defense, here is their position on the Enterprise letter. They write, quote, Mr. Combs is at a significant disadvantage. Defense counsel still do not understand the contours of the government's allegations, including who the government even considers a victim, and have repeatedly asked for assistance from the government. Unless and until the government is required to make trial disclosures, the defense will remain ignorant of the evidence it is required to meet. The result will be a fundamentally flawed trial. Accordingly, Mr. Combs proposes that the government file its Enterprise letter by February 1st, 2025. So that is less than a month away. That's just a few weeks away. So that is one disclosure issue in this letter. Also in the letter, we move on to notices regarding who will be called as expert witnesses and rebuttal expert witnesses. So here, the prosecution is proposing that all parties, the prosecution and the defense, provide notice of their experts about 8 weeks before trial, March 7th, 2025, and rebuttal experts, if there are any, 2 weeks later, by March 21st. So that is 6 weeks before trial. And the reason that you need to provide notice to the other side of who you're planning to call is because opposing sides need time to vet the reliability and the relevance of expert witnesses. In the law, we call that the Daubert standing, or briefing on Daubert. Now, the prosecution says here's the problem. Combs' lawyers have indicated they are not going to provide their notice of who their experts are until the prosecution first provides their experts. And the prosecution says that's inefficient. It won't provide them enough time to file challenges, and that is inconsistent with how things are done here. And speaking of the defense, they say, yeah, prosecution, you know what? You should present notice of your experts by March 7th, 2025. Then we'll provide notice of our experts for the first time on March 21st, 2025. And then, government, you can provide your rebuttal experts on March 28th. And despite the prosecution's argument, the defense is saying this is consistent with how things are done and what the federal rules of criminal procedure say. And there's a special rule about that. Perhaps both sides will debate on if the defense has to disclose their experts, only if the defense first requests the same from the government. It gets a little complicated, but it's going to be a back and forth about when exactly the defense has to submit their experts to the prosecution, because, again, both sides need time to prepare challenges to those experts. From there, we have something called 404B 413 notice. So this is about evidence of other crimes or acts or wrongs that were committed by Sean Combs that may be used to show things like motive or lack of accident, or that there was a plan. And also, this concerns evidence of other sexual assaults. So basically what we're talking about is what the government plans to introduce and for what purpose and how they will introduce it. And the prosecution plans to provide notice of this by March 7th. Combs' team says the government should have to disclose this by February 1st. Okay, so you get back and forth about what the date will be. From there, we have something called motions in limine. So motions in limine, and for anybody who's been following our trials might know what these are motions to exclude evidence or arguments from coming into trial. The jury will never hear about this. For example, something might be too prejudicial, or maybe it's not relevant, or maybe it was obtained through illegal means and can't come in and needs to be suppressed. So the prosecution...
Years, the public image of Jay-Z and Diddy was one of solidarity and mutual respect. Two titans at the top of their game, two moguls who went from the streets to skyscrapers, from grinding mixtapes to billion-dollar boardrooms. Their association was framed as the ultimate success story, black excellence, brotherhood, and business genius. They were seen together at exclusive events, working alongside the most powerful players in entertainment, politics, and business. But according to 50 Cent, this picture-perfect narrative was only part of the truth. Behind the cameras, behind the business deals, behind the curated public image, there was another story. In 50's telling, Jay-Z and Diddy's connection went far beyond public camaraderie. It was rooted in mutual secrets, shared interests that weren't meant for public consumption, and private dealings that, if revealed, could cause damage on a scale few could even imagine. These weren't just casual hangouts. These weren't just networking opportunities. They were closed-door.
The Constitution is asking for all parties to file their motions by March 21st, oppositions to those motions by April 4th. The defense has put forward a different timetable. They are asking for both parties to file their motions by April 1st and oppositions by April 11th. They say unless the government makes disclosures earlier, we just can't be prepared to file motions in limine by their timeline. In other words, how can we know exactly what needs to be excluded or what we want to be excluded from trial unless the government provides us some disclosures about their case? And then from there, we move on to another section of the letter discussing 3,500 material. So that's about statements and reports of government witnesses, including their attorneys. The government wants to produce all that by March 21st under an attorney eyes only designation, probably to make sure that no information about the witnesses is leaked before the trial, and also only in an attorney's possession designation so Combs can review that material in April. And the government highlights that there is a need for this because of allegations of witness tampering and obstruction on the part of Combs. We've talked about these allegations before, that Combs allegedly, including while locked up at the MDC, had tried to reach out to witnesses and victims in this case, even by using intermediaries. The defense says, no. We want the government to disclose this 3,500 material about the witnesses by March 1st. And they argue otherwise, the government could potentially be withholding exculpatory information from the defense until March 21st. That's not fair. When we're talking about exculpatory evidence, this is favorable evidence to the defense. And by the way, more specifically, in the letter, this is what the defense argues regarding victim one in this case, who we believe is Cassandra Ventura, Combs' ex-girlfriend. She filed that initial lawsuit against him in 2023. That got the ball rolling on all of the other lawsuits and potentially the criminal charges. So they write in this letter, for instance, the government appears to take the view that information undermining certain claims by victim one need not be disclosed promptly because it is merely impeachment rather than exculpatory and therefore should not be disclosed until the 3,500 deadline. Basically, the government is saying, look, this evidence doesn't prove Combs didn't commit the crimes that he's charged with, but it's evidence that can be used by the defense when they cross-examine victim one when she takes the stand at trial. In other words, there's no reason for us to present this kind of evidence to you earlier than what we're proposing. But the defense writes, this overlooks the fact that evidence that undermines her claims also undermines the government's theory of the case and the criminal allegations, making them affirmatively exculpatory. It also minimizes the time required to make effective use of the withheld information. Of course, regardless of whether information qualifies as exculpatory or impeachment, it must be disclosed in time for its effective use at trial. And the defense continues, moreover, because the government continues to refuse to identify who it views as a victim, also means that the government is also failing to meet its Brady and Giglio obligations with respect to any other alleged victim. Requiring Mr. Combs to follow up on all exculpatory evidence in the 6 weeks before trial is unconstitutionally burdensome. 3,500 material should also not be produced with an attorney eyes only designation, particularly if the court adopts the government's proposal to delay disclosure of such material until March 21st, 2025. Defense counsel will need Mr. Combs' assistance to properly review the material and effectively prepare for trial. Now, finally, the parties they agree for once. They agree about the witness and exhibit list. The prosecution proposes submitting that list 3 weeks before trial, April 14th, 2020.
Gatherings, invite-only nights where the guest list was small, the rules were unwritten, and the consequences of talking were understood by everyone in the room. 50 Cent has hinted at details that send chills through those paying attention. He's spoken about events where there were no cameras, where everyone present had something to lose if word ever got out. He's suggested that these weren't just industry parties, they were nights that blurred lines, where boundaries were crossed, and where the type of behavior alleged in Diddy's legal troubles was not only present but, in some cases, facilitated. The timing of these claims is impossible to ignore. Diddy is under immense legal pressure. The walls are closing in. Allegations of misconduct, coercion, and abuse are surfacing faster than his legal team can respond to them. Every week seems to bring a new headline, a new accusation, a new person stepping forward with a story. And now, with 50 statements, Jay-Z's carefully maintained distance from these allegations is suddenly in question. 4 years.
25. They say earlier than that doesn't make sense because those motions in limine excluding evidence or arguments won't have been decided yet, and that will affect who or what the government will present. They say the defense can present its list by April 25th, 2025, so that's 1 week in advance of trial. The defense agrees to both. And then both the prosecution and the defense agree to April 11th as the deadline for the jury questionnaire forms. So those are sent out to prospective jurors across the jurisdiction, starts the whole jury selection process on who will be called into court for further questioning and examination. And also both sides agree to April 25th as the deadline for requests to charge or voir dire. That's the more specific process for selecting the jury, and also proposed verdict forms to be submitted. So in the end, what do you see here? You see a little gamesmanship, you see a little strategy, a little practical difficulties all at play here. Remember, it is the prosecution's burden. The defense arguably wants to trip them up, right? They don't want them to be as prepared as possible, trying to take any advantage they can. So this unidentified Jane Doe has sued both Jay-Z, Sean Carter, and Sean Diddy Combs. This is out in New York. This is out in New York federal court, to be more specific. And she is claiming that when she was just 13 years old, she was raped by both of these musicians at a Video Music Awards after party back in 2000. And now Jay-Z, who is adamantly denying the allegations, is not only trying to get the whole case dismissed and thrown out, but he is also asking the court to impose sanctions upon Jane Doe's Texas attorney, Tony Busby. Now, this may sound very familiar, by the way, because this has been an ongoing legal war between Busby and Jay-Z and his legal team. Accusations that Busby engaged in extortion, that his firm pressured a client to lie, that Jay-Z's camp has been engaging in intimidation and harassment. Jay-Z called Tony Busby a deplorable human being. He even filed a lawsuit against Tony Busby. And by the way, Jay-Z and his legal team, their position was that Busby had extorted the rapper, that Busby allegedly threatened Jay-Z during negotiations that he would go public with these claims. Jay-Z says these are false claims, but public with these claims unless Jay-Z agreed to pay what they claim is a, quote, exorbitant sum in private mediation within a 2-week period. Jay-Z says that when he refused, that is when he was named by Tony Busby in the lawsuit. Remember, this lawsuit first came out, it was only identified as unnamed celebrity A, and then in an amended complaint, Jay-Z was identified as celebrity A. So you're seeing this really bad blood between the different players here. I mean, it got so bad that the judge in this case, Judge Annalisa Torres, actually scolded Jay-Z's lawyer, Alex Spiro, writing in a recent order, Carter's lawyer's relentless filing of combative motions containing inflammatory language and ad hominem attacks is inappropriate, a waste of judicial resources, and a tactic unlikely to benefit his client. The court will not fast-track the judicial process merely because counsel demands it. Now, despite not allowing Jay-Z to immediately file for sanctions, Judge Torres did permit Jay-Z to file the motion that we're about to talk about. And this is big. So this is Jay-Z's memorandum of law in support of his motion for sanctions and dismissing the complaint. So basically, these are his legal arguments. So the filing begins right on page 1. While the allegations stated in the complaint in this case are gravely serious and injurious to Mr. Carter's hard-won reputation, many of them on their face strain the outer bounds of credulity, and none of them appear to have been subjected to even the most rudimentary diligence by the filing attorney who initially signed his name to them and has since declined to withdraw them. Because the federal rules and professional ethics require more of a filing attorney,
Jay-Z has played the game with precision. He has sidestepped controversies that have taken down others. He's managed to avoid being pulled into the ugliest parts of the industry's underbelly. But 50 Cent is suggesting that avoidance may have been less about innocence and more about careful image control. And if what 50 is hinting at is true, the implication is that Jay-Z was not only aware of certain activities but may have been connected to them in ways the public has never been told. Social media exploded the moment 50's comments hit the airwaves. Old photos and videos of Jay-Z and Diddy together resurfaced. Clips from interviews, once dismissed as harmless anecdotes, are now being re-examined with suspicion. Online forums are flooded with speculation, theories, and alleged insider accounts. Some point to patterns in their careers. noting the moments where both men seem to rise in unison or weather storms together. Others believe 50 is exaggerating, using his platform.
Whoever would commit such a crime against a minor should be locked away. Would you not agree? These alleged victims would deserve real justice if that were the case. This lawyer, who I have done a bit of research on, seems to have a pattern of these type of theatrics. I have no idea how you have come to be such a deplorable human, Mr. Busby, but I promise you I have seen your kind many times over. I'm more than prepared to deal with your type. Jay-Z then talks about his family and the toll this will take on them. My only heartbreak is for my family. My wife and I will have to sit our children down, one of whom is at the age where her friends will surely see the press and ask questions about the nature of these claims and explain the cruelty and greed of people. I mourn yet another loss of innocence. Children should not have to endure such at their young age. It is unfair to have to try to understand inexplicable degrees of malice meant to destroy families and human spirit. My heart and support goes out to true victims in the world who have to watch how their life story is dressed in costume for profitability by this ambulance chaser in a cheap suit. You have made a terrible error in judgment, thinking that all celebrities are the same. I'm not from your world. I'm a young man who made it out of the project of Brooklyn. We don't play these types of games. We protect children. You seem to exploit people for personal gain. Only your network of conspiracy theorists, fake physics, will believe the idiotic claims you have levied against me, that if not for the seriousness surrounding harm to kids, would be laughable. I look forward to showing you just how different I am. And lawyer Tony Busby, who filed the suit in the first place, is firing back also on X. Regarding the Jay-Z case and his efforts to silence my clients, Mr. Carter previously denied being the one who sued me and my firm. He filed his frivolous case under a pseudonym. What he fails to say in his recent statement is my firm sent his lawyer a demand letter on behalf of an alleged victim, and that victim never demanded a penny from him. Instead, she sought only a confidential mediation. Since I sent the letter on her behalf, Mr. Carter has not only sued me, but he has tried to bully and harass me and this plaintiff. His conduct has had the opposite impact. She is emboldened. I'm very proud of her resolve. As far as the allegations in the complaint filed, we will let the filing speak for itself and will litigate the facts in court, not in the media. I want to bring in Nima Rahmani. He is an entertainment attorney, and he's been following the whole Sean Combs ordeal very closely. So, Nima, your thoughts on Jay-Z being revealed as Celebrity A in this lawsuit? I know you and I discussed this a few weeks back.
And Jeanette, I'm not surprised. You and I have speculated, as to who this might be. And I think it was really telling when Alex Spiro and Quinn Emanuel filed that extortion lawsuit against Tony Busby. It's pretty well known that Spiro represents Jay-Z and Rock Nation, so it was the most likely celebrity, and now it's been revealed that the allegations are indeed against Jay-Z.
I think it's interesting, too, because Alex Spiro came out swinging about a month or two ago when something came up about Jay-Z and Beyonce on appears
to reignite personal grudges and stir the pot in ways only he can. But here's the thing about 50 Cent, he doesn't usually fire shots without some form of ammunition. His history shows that when he decides to aim at someone, there's often more than just ego behind it. And this time, he's aiming at two of the most powerful men in the music world at once. That's not just bold, that's dangerous. The implications are massive. If even a fraction of what 50 is suggesting turns out to be true, the fallout could be historic. Jay-Z has built an empire not just in music but in business, sports, fashion, and philanthropy. His influence reaches far beyond the recording studio. A public link to Diddy's alleged crimes could tarnish decades of work, undermine business relationships, and permanently stain his legacy. For Diddy, already facing a crumbling empire, such revelations would be catastrophic. It wouldn't just be about legal consequences, it would be about complete exile from the industry he once dominated. The way 50 tells it, the connection between Jay-Z and Diddy wasn't just about business ventures and industry parties. It was about mutual secrets, the kind of secrets that, if exposed, could ruin reputations, dismantle legacies, and even draw both men in.
The clients decided to record the conversation, and the filing includes an alleged transcript of a conversation between Gerardo Garcia and Jessica Santiago, as well as affidavits from other former clients they say that they were contacted and offered money if they would sue Busby's firm. Now, according to the transcript, Santiago wanted Garcia to sign what she called a contract to investigate, which she explained gave a private lawyer permission to look into Garcia's case and settlement. She also mentioned several times that she is from the state. The transcript reads, "It's a private lawyer. We are from the state, but it's a private lawyer that knows what the Busby law firm was doing. For example, last night someone signed up with us, and in his case, Busby was depositing his checks in Busby's private account and not in an account for lawyers, and he was charging the interest and taking the money. And he was stealing the checks from insurance. And so he didn't know that Busby was stealing. That was his case. Now, I don't know much about your case, but the lawyer you will speak with today, she will explain that she will open your case, see what happened to you. But your name appeared on the list of people that may have something unusual, and she wants to investigate your case, and then she will recommend someone familiar with your kind of case to recover all that money." The client then asks, "And they are from the state?" The PI replied, according to the transcript, "The lawyer is from here, Texas, and also has a license in New York. Us, the investigators, are from the state, but we are not lawyers." Now, Santiago reportedly goes on to claim that 70 people are involved in a class action lawsuit against Busby, and she allegedly tells Garcia that the lawyer she wants him to talk to is Marcy Croft from MJ Legal. Again, this is a private firm, but Croft reportedly does work with Roc Nation. Now, in the filing, Busby included a screenshot of one of Croft's posts on Instagram where she gave a shout out to Roc Nation and Jay-Z, saying she was proud to be a small part of a great team. Now, the filing also includes another alleged transcript of a recorded telephone conversation, but it is unclear when this conversation exactly happened or who exactly was participating. But based on the fact that this was included in the lawsuit, I think we can conclude that the person on the call is a former client of Tony Busby's. But he apparently tells the two attorneys on the other end of the phone that he didn't want to answer any questions about his case, including who his lawyer was, but he said he would listen to what they had to say. So according to this alleged transcript, one of the attorneys says, "In a couple of days or maybe by next week, anyone Googling Busby and his company, his practice, you're going to see some of these lawyers are going to be going into litigation, okay? What we're trying to do is we're trying to put this thing together for the company that we're working for at this. If you have a case, we could get you paid and you could get money soon, you know? We gave this kid $1,000 to start yesterday just to get him on the right path. So yeah." So the person on the other end of the phone says, "Okay, let me ask you a question." And the attorney apparently replies, "At the end of the day, I appreciate your question. Just hold that thought for a second. At the end of the day, this is going through the courts. Busby is getting sued, and eventually people are going to get paid out. Now, it's up to you if you want to be a part of," and that is where the recording ends. So, the allegation that former clients are being offered money to file a lawsuit is actually backed up by two affidavits included as exhibits here in the filing. In one, a Louisiana woman named Skylar Taylor says that 3 men from New York showed up at her grandmother's home multiple times, unannounced, uninvited,
into the same criminal shadows. And now, with Diddy's legal walls closing in, 50 claims that some of those secrets are on the verge of spilling into the open. When 50 Cent speaks, people listen. His track record for calling things out and being right about them is part of why his words hit so hard. And in this case, he's not just making casual accusations. He's hinting at disturbing details, claiming that Jay-Z's ties to Diddy's alleged crimes aren't just casual associations, but direct connections that go back years. According to 50, these connections involve exclusive gatherings, private meetings, and events shielded from public view, the kind of nights where cameras weren't allowed, and only a select few knew what really happened behind those closed doors. He paints a picture of a hidden network, one where favors were exchanged, silence was bought, and boundaries were crossed without consequence. What makes this revelation even more explosive is the timing. Diddy is already facing intense legal heat, with multiple allegations stacking up against him. If even a fraction of what 50 is implying is true, Jay-Z could find himself pulled into a narrative he's managed to avoid for decades. And while both men remain silent on 50's latest claims, silence has its own weight. In an industry where image is everything, refusing to address allegations can be read in many ways: strategic patience, legal caution, or, to some, a sign of guilt. The court of public opinion is already in session, and in that court, perception often matters more than proof. For now, 50 Cent.
At some point, it is impossible to prepare. It is impossible to confront your accuser, which you have a constitutional right to do, unless you have their identity, unless you can do some real meaningful work. And getting the name of the accuser the day before trial or a week before trial, which some of us have had happen, is mostly a thing of the past now, because appeals courts have been pretty clear that that is a massive prejudice to be able to put on a reasonable and meaningful defense for your client.
And this is something that Judge Torres referenced specifically in her motion. She basically said, I will keep this quiet. Your name will be Jane Doe for now, but I reserve the right to change my mind. And according to what you're saying, it sounds like she might. What could a timetable look like for that, for us to know Jane Doe's true identity?
It's hard to say. I mean, part of what the judge was angry about was Alex Spiro's constant barrage of letters, which she found combative, full of inflammatory language. But the heart of those letters was essentially, let's move this along. Let's do this as fast as possible. So even if she's trying to stop him from doing that, I don't think there's going to be a shift in strategy on trying to move this case forward as fast as possible. They want this case resolved and done as fast as possible. Now, sometimes that's just puffery, but we'll see as this case goes on. If you see a continuance of Mr. Spiro's sort of pursuing getting this to trial quickly, then that's going to shorten up the timeline. A lot of times attorneys ask for more time to review discovery, to prepare, to find witnesses. But in this case, it sounds like they want to push this as fast as possible. So the closer we get to a hearing or a trial that has some sort of meaningful result attached to it, then the judge will be forced to turn over, well, not turn over, the judge will be forced to reverse her decision and make the name public.
Something we have to remember from this specific Jane Doe lawsuit is it gave us the bombshell revelation of Jay-Z's involvement. So when it was first filed, he was simply Celebrity A, and there's a Celebrity B, but we didn't know who he was. Now we know it's Jay-Z. It's been amended to actually have his name in there, Sean Carter. But there's still Celebrity B, a female celeb. We don't know who she is. Do you think her identity could be revealed?
You know, that's going to be probably up to Tony Busby, the attorney for the plaintiff. Clearly, they're trying to use these sort of Celebrity A pseudonyms as leverage. And you can see what happened when they put Sean Carter in there. I think it was first filed in October, and then they put him in only a few weeks ago on December 8th. And look what we're doing now. We're talking about it. It's in the news. It kind of had died down, the specific allegations. It was more just sort of an umbrella story about Diddy and what his parties meant and sort of what they mean right now in the legal world and in the world of media. But now that they've added Jay-Z's name specifically to it, it's obviously getting a whole new wave of attention and more focused attention on this victim. So I think it's going to be tied to the media cycle, if I had to guess, and how these rulings continue. And they have this celebrity name that is sort of waiting to take over the headlines when they choose to release it. So I think it will be added, but it's going to be a strategic time.
What about additional lawsuits? Because Tony Busby, the name you've been mentioning a lot, has said, he said there were thousands of allegations, but he says he's going to file more than 100 civil lawsuits. So we obviously know that P. Diddy is going to be involved in this, but could Jay-Z, could others?
And hasn't revealed everything he claims to know. He's dropped hints, painted outlines, and let the public fill in the blanks. But his tone suggests he's holding back more, much more. And if the past is any indication, he won't stay quiet for long. He thrives in moments like this, where the tension is high, the stakes are higher, and the whole world is watching to see what comes next. This isn't just a feud anymore. This isn't just industry gossip. This is a potential unraveling of two of hip-hop's most powerful legacies, and the person holding the thread is 50 Cent. Whether he's doing this out of personal vendetta, a sense of justice, or simply because he can, the fact remains, once these kinds of accusations are spoken out loud, they can't be taken back. The damage begins the moment the words leave the mouth, and the ripples can become tidal waves. As Diddy's legal battles rage on, as investigators dig deeper, and as the public keeps dissecting every piece of new information, the question is no longer just about whether Diddy will survive this. It's about whether Jay-Z can. And if 50 Cent is right, the answer might already be written, buried somewhere in the history they've both worked so hard to keep hidden. Because in the world of power, money, and influence, secrets are the most valuable currency, and when those secrets are exposed, even the strongest empires can fall.